Hi, this is Suzanne, and you're listening to Sex Advice for Seniors. This is the 100th episode. Oh my God. And so I thought that because it was a big celebration, I'm not very clever, but it was actually someone else's suggestion, said, why don't you bring back Peter and Zoe? And I thought, why not? Why not bring back Peter and Zoe? Peter, hello.
Hello. It's been a long time since I left these shores. And you've gone from strength to strength over the weeks since I can't remember when the last one I did was about 40 or something.
Yeah, it must have been. And welcome, Zoe.
Hi, I'm so happy to be back. This is
Zoe,
so exciting.
What's happening with you? What's been happening with you?
Oh my goodness. Well, lots of stuff in my personal life unfolding. All good. I mean, all life, And I've started writing a memoir. And
well
I know
done.
I'm very excited. And I am launching an online course that's it's going to be called Practical Intimacy for Couples. That should be ready and up and live in September, and by the end of September. And so that's fun. And yeah, love and life.
Sounds good.
That's good. And Peter's moved to Sheffield since...
I've moved to Sheffield, in the north of England. And it's great. I live here by the canal. I'm looking out the window at the canal now and all the boats and having a great time. Not doing very much, but, that suits me fine.
I can see. Have you expanded your guitar collection, Peter?
Oh, no, I just collected all my old guitars together and put them in one place. So I fiddle around a bit on them, but I haven't done anything. Maybe I will at some point.
And what's happened with your love life, Peter?
That's really that's fairly calm as well at the moment. I've seen a couple of women since I've lived here, but nothing spectacular. Just a couple of friends with benefits, but at the moment, nothing. It's nice. I'm really enjoying living on my own, and sometimes miss female company, but on the whole, not.
I feel that way as well, generally, about the opposite sex.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, at the moment, I've been living with my best mate who moved in last year when he was, when the people that owned the house he was staying in decided to sell it. So he moved in while I was in Las Palmas, and then came out to see me for a few weeks. And then when I moved back, he moved into the spare room because my lodger moved out. And he's been there ever since because he's been refurbishing a place on the coast, which is going to take a significant period of time because it's a complete and utter renovation, like massive, pretty big
that's
renovation.
the place in Folkestone.
In Folkestone, which is on the coast, very pretty. But so I have his company, like all the time.
Oh, that's nice.
Which is great because he's like my best mate.
Well.
I don't, and when you have that emotional connection with somebody that's really strong, like my requirement for like a full-blown relationship is quite low because I think I don't really have much more emotional space left for anything more than this. And so I've just been having a very nice sexual relationship with somebody I met before I went to Las Palmas and has carried on pretty much almost every weekend on Sundays. And I have really enjoyed that.
Sounds ideal.
Yeah, it suits me. And he fixes things as well.
Fixes things in the house, not just you.
He fixes me. He fixes me and he fixes things in the house, which I know is most women's ideal, like dream guy, right? And sometimes he does things that I think are quite sweet. Like he says, "Can I sharpen all your knives?" And he takes them away and he sharpens all of them, and then he brings them back, and I could literally just like slice anything, like slice through paper and stuff. And my friends think that's really sexy.
Yeah.
And he said he's going to make me a knife, which is a very long, it's a very extensive process. This has been going on for quite a number of months now, this making of the knife. But I'm looking forward to that. I really am. I think it's hot, like getting a guy to make the first knife he's ever made.
Yeah, the phallic knife.
It's kind of hot, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I have a thing about knives that, as you know, I just love knives, and so yeah, I would find that quite attractive as well. Maybe I need to find a woman knife maker, because Sheffield is known for its knives and cutlery. It's the home of a good knife. So I should find a female knife maker.
I think that's an awesome idea. That's an awesome idea.
I think the women make the sheath for the knife.
Yeah.
I need to think about that. I need to think about the sheath for the knife. I could do that. I sew, so I could make something nice and leathery and something like that. I need to think about that. I'm gonna devote some thought to that. Although I don't really have a lot of capacity at the moment, because you may have read that I have now, in addition to doing this and my other jobs that I do, I've taken on becoming the UK distributor for the cock ring man.
Yeah.
You'll have to distribute some knife-proof ones that can't be cut at all. It sounds an ideal job for you, though. Absolutely.
I can't think of a better job, actually.
No.
I mean, talking about cock all day long, it's like, it's really, that's kind of a dream job for me.
Yeah. Well, I think about it all day long, so, you know.
Exactly, right? And that's what I reckon. I reckon that most of the male population thinks about that all day long. So selling them something which helps them to sustain an erection has got to be a bit of a no-brainer, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing, a cock ring.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing that you're doing, being of service to men in enhancing their relationships.
I think it's great, yeah.
I know. Somebody said to me, "Why aren't you doing this for women's products?" And I thought, yeah, you just think about that.
Yeah. Right. You're the cock whisperer.
Very good.
You're the second one who said that to me. And
I love it.
Clearly,
business card. Suzanne Noble,
my business card.
Yeah.
Some woman wrote to me on Facebook going, "Your kids must be really proud of you, not." And I said, actually, my kids are really proud of me. They really are. Look at the service that we've all done collectively to enhance people's sex lives and relationships and all the good stuff that we've all done together. You know,
I think that's true.
They are proud of me. Like, just because I like to promote a stretchy object that makes a man's cock hard, I don't. Like, why should that bother them?
It's just a posh rubber band, after all.
Exactly.
Posh rubber band.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than that. But anyway, that's it, if you're on the economical side, then yes, probably. that's right.
Rubber band and some cling film and you're away.
Yeah. So, Peter, one of the things that we were talking about when you moved up there was, have you managed to find a munch or any of this kind of like, any of the sexy people in Sheffield? Have you started the pro-sex aging community?
It's, as a single man, it's pretty hard to break into that whole scene. I've been to a couple of munches.
Oh, yeah.
But, there's nothing much has come of it, to be honest. and I'm not into the whole sort of kink BDSM scene anyway, and I'm not really into the polyamory scene either,
Yeah.
which seems to be just mainly people who are obsessed with ropes, as far as I can work out. Especially in Sheffield, which is a big climbing centre, so all the climbers think, "Oh, great! I'll join the polyamory set, and I can show off all my rope skills, you know." And so it's not really for me. So and also, my local pub is literally, I can see it from here, from this window,
Yeah.
and I go down there, and it's run by two gay guys, and it's just a wonderful place.
Yeah.
And I think about going abroad, and I think, well, this is the sort of place I would look for if I went to a little Spanish village somewhere. All the locals just sitting around drinking and smoking and talking shit. And so I go and do that every day, and it's just wonderful, especially now the sun's out.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, no, I haven't really, I haven't really broken into the whole scene here, and I haven't really made much effort for the last couple of months.
Fair enough.
How long have you lived there, Peter?
Yeah.
How long?
Yeah. How long? Oh, I've lived here just over a year. Where are we now? March, April, May, June, July. A year and a half.
Wow, that's quickly.
It's gone very quickly. Yeah.
You said something that I'm really curious about, and I've had a lot of conversations here. You said that as a single man, it's hard to sort of like jumpstart the sex positive, open, right? Like it's harder for a man to do that than a woman.
From my perspective, I know that when Suzanne and I were together, we did a few things together, and there was sort of a welcoming attitude to her, which there wasn't the same to me, I think, and or there hasn't been the same to me, and I think it's a danger, especially as an older man, to get known just as a sex pest, basically, somebody who's just looking for a shag all the time, which is true, but you can you can do it in different ways, and just a single man trying to sort of shove his way into pre-existing relationships or various different constellations of people is more difficult, I think. Men sort of see each other as competition in a way that perhaps women don't. I don't know, but
I don't know that that's true.
No,
really,
as I said it, I thought it wasn't true, but
because women can be so competitive. But I think what my feeling is that the way, and I don't know if this is nature or nurture. Suzanne, you and I have talked a lot about.
Probably a mixture of both, usually is.
Yeah, usually a mixture of both, the way women are sort of naturally wired and the way that we're conditioned to feel. Like the idea that men just want sex and we want death and all of that. And it doesn't leave room for women who just want sex.
Oh, yeah, I know. I just haven't found any recently.
And I think generally that I was discussing this with my friend, like to keep a relationship like on the sex level without it straying into other, like, oh, are we going to get more serious here? What's going to happen? Like after a while, some people might be tempted to try and make it something different than what they originally intended it to be. Right. And I think it can be quite difficult sometimes for people to keep that casualness going without thinking, oh, maybe they could turn into a boyfriend, or maybe they could do this, or maybe they could do that.
Yeah.
Whereas when you set out with the intention of like being in a relationship, then the expectation is that every evening you're going to call each other up and you're going to say, oh, what happened today? How was your day? And blah, blah, blah. Whereas the casual nature of relationships is that you typically don't do that. So it is hard to navigate casualness, I think, sometimes as both a woman and a man. I don't think it's necessarily that women are always seeking the depth. Sometimes men want more of that themselves. I think it just depends on sometimes how many other relationships they've got going on in their lives. Like if they've got lots of friends, for instance, and they've got lots of emotional connections going on, they might be perfectly happy with just keeping things casual with somebody. But if they're quite lonely, of course, then the thing is, oh, let's try and make this into my all-in-one situation, right?
Yeah. We've talked about that before, haven't we?
Sorry. Peter and I are.
Oh, we talked a lot about that before, and I must admit that since I've been here and I've made lots of friends and regenerated lots of old friendships as well, because I've been in Sheffield for, quarter of a century teaching. And but since I've sort of got those old friends back and made lots of new friends, I think the sort of deep desire that I had for something is much less than it was, and I think that's probably true what you say about the relationships. It's just you just seek human warmth and kindness and closeness. And that can be sex, but it can also be just going for a pint down the pub.
Yeah. I think in general too, we humans are not great at, or many of us are not great at establishing and maintaining space. We tend to just fill up all the spaces. So if we if we have many casual relationships going at once, then that space is filled. If we only have one or two, then we tend to like fill it all up with something. And if we were a little bit more adept at just sort of being with ourselves, then we wouldn't be looking, or we wouldn't tend to stretch what we intend to be a casual relationship into, more.
Yeah. I think that's so right. Yeah.
For our need for regulation and intimacy, and there's tons of intimacy that's like available to us as individuals.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely right. And since I've lived here, I've got this big, relatively big 2-bedroom flat, and I've got as much space as I could ever want, really. And being retired and living here, and every day I get up when I want, I do what I want, I watch what I want, I listen to what I want. I've got nothing but space,
Yeah.
And so you just go and fill it up down the pub with a bit of connection, and some people come back here, and I have visitors and things.
Yeah.
It's actually a perfect way to live. I'm really very happy here. I was going to say something rude, but I shan't.
And I have to ask this question, as like we're here on Sex Advice for Seniors, reflecting back on the being on doing this. I'll start with you, Zoe. Reflecting back on our time together, recording Sex Advice for Seniors, what's the one thing that you either learned, missed? I'd just like to hear a personal reflection.
Yeah. I miss you so much. I had such a wonderful time for the episodes that we did together. And, I learned how much fun it can be to talk about sex. You brought a joy back into my work. I do a lot of very heavy work with a lot of people who have been really traumatized, either
Yeah.
through assault or betrayal, and sometimes, you know, there's spells at a time where it's not fun. It's not fun
Yeah.
work, and it was so wonderful to have that time with you and really laugh and take everything lightly, and really such a gift.
Thanks. And
Yeah.
Peter, what's your reflection on the time that we spent recording Sex Advice for Seniors?
Well, I think it's very similar to that, actually. I think, you know, after a long time of you know, of really having very, very disturbed sexual relationships, it was nice to just have a positive attitude towards sex and see it as something which you just do or which just happens, and not, as you said earlier, Zoe, as the be all and end all of a relationship. And I think I needed that space. I mean, I think it took me a while to settle down into that. I'm not sure I ever did, but I think that's the one thing I learned from doing the podcast with you was to just, you know, have fun and just to have a positive attitude towards things which people find difficult. I mean, this, you know, I don't want to go on about it too much, but the pub I go to that's run by a couple of gay guys, it's still, sex is you know, it doesn't come up in conversation very often, and it's still very difficult, you know, and people have so many taboos surrounding their attitude towards sex that I think the thing that I wanted, and I still want a sex device to do is to help break down those taboos, especially amongst older people, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I think throughout this whole process, when I started off with you, Peter, and then with Zoe, because mostly at the beginning, it was just you and I talking shit to each other, right?
Yeah.
It literally was just like, oh, what are we going to talk about this week? Oh, let's talk about this, right? And then we just
That's true.
ramble on, bit stream of
Well,
content.
we just kind of slid into it, didn't
You
we?
know, yeah, literally. And then we, you know, and then following up with Zoe, I always felt like, oh, there was more of a kind of, you know, there was more kind of theory. It got a bit more professional from the standpoint of like you were a trained sexologist. And so there was a bit more kind of authority about the whole thing. I felt like people would say, oh, it's really nice, the balance between you two, because you've got all the theory and the experience and the practical knowledge. And I've just got the fact I've shagged a lot of people and I just like talking about sex, you know, but I didn't have a lot of theory. But then I suppose starting with more with Zoe, although Peter and I did a bit of it, we started talking to experts, right? And I think now I talk to experts every single week because I don't have either of you. And you know, and it's nice to bounce things around with people. But I suppose what I've really come to understand is that there's a lot of people out there really struggling with this. You know, and there's a lot of gaslighting by medical professionals, like a huge amount of gaslighting, right? And just really poor information that's being given to older people about sex and intimacy and all that. And I wrote a redraft that I haven't put out yet on my Substack, you know, about things that I've learned from the sexperts. Was like, I did one article, which was things that I've learned from talking to the sexperts, right? Which was all kind of done in a sort of typical Suzanne positive frame of mind, you know, blah, blah. I was trying to put a real positive spin on it, but I was also acknowledging some of the shit. Then I spoke to somebody who had been given money, an academic, to do research about sex in older adults. He hadn't found us. He didn't know about this.
Right.
I was told about him by a friend who saw him deliver a paper at a conference that, and he clearly had spoken to quite a limited number of people. Nevertheless, he'd come to some similar conclusions that we all have. But I was really fucked off a bit about the fact that after doing nearly 100 episodes and all the press and all the stuff and, like all the contribution that we've collectively made towards trying to, generate more information about sex in later life, that he hadn't found any of us. And I really was kind of mad about that. I had a good conversation with him. So I wrote a redraft of that article that was kind of angry, an angry redraft that I'm still debating about whether I put out or not. But I am kind of angry if I'm honest. Like, some of the jolliness, I suppose, that I started with has been replaced a little bit with being a little bit fucked off.
Right.
And because I can't help but listen to some of the shit that people tell me and think, this isn't good enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. I mean, you started at the top of this episode asking, how I'm doing and what I'm up to and stuff. And to be really perfectly honest with you, the underbelly of all of that is that I'm really burned out. I'm really dealing with burnout from working on, I worked for 4.5 years on a sexual wellness app called Coral, which is still up and live. But basically, we were banned on Facebook because we were categorized as, and this is an app that is like, I can't even tell you, we use the words penis and vagina and vulva. It's totally science backed. And, it's really a therapeutic app that is so lovely. And we're categorized on Facebook as pornography. Meanwhile, I can't even tell you what my feed looks like if I don't weed it out and like curate it for myself on a regular basis. It's filled with salacious kind of sexuality. And so I don't, it's really this idea that, I have women coming to me constantly, wondering what's wrong with them because they can't have vaginal orgasms without any kind of clitoral stimulation. And it's like, hello, people.
Which century are we living in? Yeah.
Yes. And why can't we talk about this? It's I'll tell you, I went to a new gynecologist. I started, by the way, Suzanne, you and I have talked about this. I started hormone replacement therapy.
Oh, right.
And I started taking the lowest dose estrogen and progesterone. Peter, you can la 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 la.
Yeah.
And
I'm not listening. Sorry.
I'm so happy. I am so thrilled. I feel like myself again. But
that's great.
in this process, I finally got in at my doctor's behest to just get everything checked out with a gynecologist. I haven't been in years. And she was wonderful. And she said to me, I want to talk to you about your work and what is your training and what do you deal with and what do you specialize in? And she said, she asked at the end of that for a stack of my business cards because she said she has so many clients who really need that support.
Yeah.
Which that's revolutionary to me. And I chose her because I thought she was probably a more sort of holistic woman. But we're really, at least here in the States, it's
No,
We
it's
are not
everywhere,
free.
Zoe. It is literally everywhere. It's a
Yeah.
total shit show mess. I mean, it's really through speaking to all the people that I've spoken to and we've spoken to on Sex Advice for Seniors. Some of the horror stories that people have told me, I'm just like, I'm appalled. These people should
Yeah.
be sued, right?
Yeah.
Doctors and stuff that are doing horrible, terrible things or just giving really bad advice. And one of the things that I said to this guy doing the research study, because, when I finally did get to talk to him, he was like over the moon to speak to me. He was like, why have I not found you 5 years ago? Why have I not discovered you?
Yeah.
And I was like, I literally have no idea. I am literally everywhere. Like, you just have to Google Sex Advice for Seniors. I'm on page 1 with this.
Yeah.
He said, what's your one thing that you would really want? Like if you had your one wish in this area. And I said, my one wish is that you get some grant money and you work with me and your professionals, and we create a toolkit for general practitioners and doctors of how to talk to older people about sex.
Mm-hmm.
So that when men go for their health checks, their overall health checks, and they take their blood and they take this and they weigh them and they do their BMI and all the stuff that, goes on normally, that they say to them, right, like, let's talk about your intimate life now.
Yeah.
And because those people are never going to bring that topic up, right?
Yeah.
And when they do, often it's when they're gaslit, when they're told, what are you worried about that stuff for? You're not procreating anymore. Or, pain in sex as a woman, an older woman.
Well, don't have sex then.
Don't have sex. Exactly. Yeah. Get used to it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, such bad advice. And so I just said, if we could just do that, if we could just have a way of helping medical professionals to understand how to talk to older people. I get some people don't want to have sex anymore. I'm okay with that. They're okay with that. Fine. But there are people that do and are struggling. What is being done to support those people?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I think the difference between men and women, if there is one, men are very simple animals when it comes to sex. I mean, we're basically just tubes, really. And, if you rub it, it will come, basically. And, and I think men have to get out of the way. We've got several, millennia of conditioning of sex being something that is purely for procreation.
Yeah.
There are parts of the world that's, FGM and, where sex really is just completely taboo. So we have moved forward to a certain extent, but we've still got that several thousand years of conditioning behind it, where people are ashamed and embarrassed and find it difficult, and all the reasons that we know of are still there and still very present in people's minds, and you become a sort of a freak if you're happy to talk about it and are sex positive and the rest of it. I think things are changing. I think younger generations now are far more sex positive than our sort of boomer generation.
Although young people aren't having sex at all. So, I mean,
apparently not.
Idea.
Yeah, but at least, I mean, it's very difficult, isn't it? Because they're also the generation that has been exposed to pornography much more than we were. I mean, you had to work really bloody hard to find pornography when I was a kid. Now it's sort of coming out of every bloody crack and corner, and so obviously that will have an effect on the way that people are and the conditioning works. But but still we carry these centuries of, I mean, let's be honest about it, religious dogma of every kind, which has held us back about sex, religion is still really very anti-women when
Yeah.
it comes to
Well,
it.
it's anti-women and it's anti-pleasure and it's
Yeah. It's anti
it's
all
not
those things.
to feel good.
Yeah.
I can
And-
see that Zoe was nodding her head, wanting to say something.
No, I was going to say that I don't. I was sort of bobbling my head around when you optimistically said that the younger generations are
Yeah.
better.
Well,
I'm not so sure. As the mother of a 27-year-old woman and a 17-year-old young man, I'm not sure that's true. And I think that so much of the work that I do is unwinding the sort of damage that porn has done. And, I mean, there's a lot to say about pornography, but of course, I'm all in for any kind of like voyeurism and exhibitionism, and in terms of, anything that's consensual and legal and all of that. But the preponderance of porn and its availability literally in the palm of your hand at any 24/7 on your phone is, I think not being able to sort of call that up and consume it at any point is not helpful for young people. And it's such a fictitious, for the most part, it is such a fictitious portrayal of our natural organic sexual response, especially women. And women who are not so straightforward, whose genitals aren't external and, a tube that you rub and it'll come, there's more to it than that.
So, I agree with you. And I think, we, as you said just before about your app, we've got the additional challenges and the hypocrisy that anything that suggests that sex could be pleasurable or female centric or Cindy Gallup is having the same problem with Make Love Not Porn that you guys are having, and she writes about it just nonstop. Is that we've got this ridiculous double standard where I can't move without seeing fucking Viagra from Hims on every single social media channel that I participate in. And yet I see nothing about women's pleasure, nothing about supporting women's vaginal health, nothing about what good sex looks like, nothing, literally nothing. And we're just bombarded with either pornography or male erection pills. And that's the choice that we have. And again, it's just, I know that there are campaigns going on at the moment to try and overturn some of the decisions that have been made by Meta, for example, around what they will and will not advertise. And I do hope that those come to some sort of satisfactory conclusion. But generally, like I said, I just came out of the 100th episode going, I don't get paid for this, right? Like mainly, I've now reached a point where I finally hit $1,400 annual revenue, right, on Substack.
Wow.
And it's like, oh wow, that's really gonna help me. It's just about paying subscription costs on all the software that I now have to use to keep this show on the road. And I do get, I do think, what's it going to take? Like, what's it going to take to get people on board with the fact that it's not good enough. Like, it's just not good enough.
You should set yourself up as the new Dr. Ruth now that she's shuffled off the mortal coil.
I'm not a doctor.
No, I know.
The thing is, like, I'm not even qualified. I'm just a person who's now spoken with a hell of a lot of sexperts.
Yeah. Well, this is it. That is qualification, as you've got the hands-on experience, as it were. Plus, you are getting education through this podcast.
Yeah. It's just, I would like it to be bigger. That's, because I do
Wouldn't
think,
we all?
Yeah. We can end there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
There's no one
anyway,
I would really, Suzanne, there's no one I would rather listen to talk about sex
Yeah.
than
thank you. I really appreciate that.
Me too. Yeah.
I think that I wasn't looking for a compliment, but thanks very much. I appreciate
yeah.
it.
Well,
And
one
then-
of the things that I've noticed is that you've become a lot more fluent over the year. The 100 episodes, as you say, we sort of stumbled into it at first, but you've become really professional, I think, in your approach to it. And that's quite something. That's really admirable.
Yeah, it's just practice though, isn't it? What were you going to say?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that one of the things that I can always count on you for, and listeners can count on you, is that you speak from when you speak from personal experience, you are always clear about, this is my experience and these are my thoughts, and somebody might have a different experience. And this is what I've learned from reading X book or talking to this expert, or and that's all we really need. What we need most of all is that guy that is, the researchers and the experts. We actually really need them to have us translate a lot of what the research says into regular language. And
yeah, for sure, for sure. And I hope that, in the future, I hope that we'll be able to work together and ultimately produce something useful for practitioners that see older people. But anyway, it has been a delightful 40 minutes.
Yeah, been really good.
Flown by.
It's been 40 minutes, is it? Right.
I know. And I'm so glad to get you back. I'm so excited. And it was so wonderful. And we should do this on the 200th episode.
Definitely.
I was going to say we should do this, more than once.
Yeah, it would be fun.
Definitely.
We could do that.
Yeah.
We could pick a topic and do that every once in a while. It would be fun. We should do that for sure.
I think it would. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see what the listeners think. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And have a lovely, lovely day.
Yeah.